So we ended up with one we're both pretty happy with.
I changed a few things. Go ahead.
Nothing. Okay. It's called Fear the Blue Sky. I'm sitting on a bench in the Presidio, in the park out behind the Letterman Digital Arts Complex in San Francisco, reading a book and enjoying an unseasonably warm winter afternoon, when the air raid siren for the outdoor public warning system pierces the afternoon quiet. The siren sounds every Tuesday at noon, wailing for 15 seconds, and followed by a voice announcement like a legal disclaimer from God. This is a test. This is a test of the outdoor warning system. This is only a test. Except it's past noon, and this isn't Tuesday. I look around at the other people in the park. The woman with the dog on a leash in one hand and a fistful of keys in the other. A man with a gray mustache and a chrome dome sitting on the bench down the pathway. A couple walking past, hand in hand. No one seems to notice anything is wrong, so I think maybe I've missed a day. Maybe my internal clock is off. But when I check my cell phone, it says Wednesday, February 17th, 1:37 p.m. On the lawn in front of me, across the paved pathway that snakes through the park, half a dozen barren young coral maples stand 6 to 8 feet tall. The top third of each tree is deep, bright red, as if they've been spray painted with blood. And I'm thinking, something's out of order.
Abruptly, the alarm dies. It doesn't wind down like it usually does, but it just abruptly cuts out, like someone kicked out the plug on a barroom jukebox. To me, this also seems a somewhat ominous development. Curiously enough, no one else seems to take note of this either. The woman with the dog still struggles with her pooch. The mustache guy sits on the bench staring into space. The couple in love would need a direct tactical nuclear strike to pry their attention from each other, so I give them a pass. At last, I notice an older gentleman who looks around like he too is confused, and then shades his eyes and looks into the sky. Whether to engage a kindred spirit or to prove to myself that I'm not crazy, I rush over to him. So you heard the siren too? He regards me and seems to think about it for a moment, and then turns and looks up at the sky again. Do you have a cell phone with a camera? What a cell phone camera can possibly have to do with the siren, I have no idea, but I produce my iPhone from my pocket. Sure, why? He points to a small smudge moving across the sky. I don't know about any siren, but now that's strange. I follow his pointing finger at what appears to be a flock of geese flying in formation. Something seems fundamentally wrong with that, though, and it takes me a moment to figure out what it is. I extend my arm and take several snaps of the flying V as it passes overhead. He leans in close to look at the photos, and using my finger I enlarge them until the individual birds are visible. There's something very different about the two birds bringing up the rear. I don't want to sound stupid, but I can't help to ask, are those eagles? He looks calmly at me and then up at the sky again. No, they're not eagles. Almost as if on cue, the air raid siren starts up, and this time I know I'm not the only one hearing it. His voice raises slightly in response. Those are vultures.
And I'm thinking, not again. I glance at my iPhone, then up at the sky, then back at my iPhone, refusing to believe what I'm seeing. But the reality in the sky and on my iPhone remains unchanged. I stare back up at the sky, at the V of incongruous birds, and wonder how much time we have before the proverbial shit hits the fan. Looking at. I turn with a start to see a woman with the pooch standing next to me, looking up into the sky. Her dog, a terrier mixed with a Napoleon complex, barks at something unseen, its claws digging at the pavement, either in an attempt to attack or run away. I'm not sure. If it's smart, it will choose the latter. What? I say, though I know perfectly well what she asked. I look around and notice everyone else in the park is now looking up into the sky, the air raid siren continuing to sound its alarm. What are you looking at? She repeats. Vultures, I say, pointing toward the V, which is coming back around, circling above us. Vultures, she shouts to the sky. Isn't that peculiar? I just nod. Further away, beyond the dome of the Palace of Fine Arts and the orange towers of the Golden Gate Bridge, more black shapes appear in the sky, headed our way. Have you ever seen anything like that? She asks. Yeah, I say, wishing it wasn't the truth. Yeah, I have.
The woman gave me one of those impatient, go on and spit it out head shakes as the small audience of people our little group has attracted continues to grow. Next to me, the older gentleman smiles mysteriously. Okay, the Bible is pretty much full of bullshit, I begin. The crowd gasps and oohs. Someone throws a Starbucks caramel latte, striking me in the chest, leaving a sticky brown smear like the mark of Cain. Perfect. I've gone and fucked it up again. I believe what our young friend means to say is that some of the events foretold in the Bible are somewhat confused as to the details the older gent offers. Isn't that correct? I stammer, how did you know? He smiles slightly but says nothing. What the fuck are you two talking about? Shouts a beefy guy in an Ed Hardy shirt, and the crowd makes that grumbling, muttering noise that indicates assent and moves a little closer to us. How do you tell someone with no tomorrow his shirt is so yesterday? A large splat sounds and glass breaks as vultures swoop down over the buildings around the park, crashing into windows like feathered asteroids and striking walls with sickening thumps that leave smears similar to the one on my shirt. What the fuck is going on, the Ed Hardy bellows, as a juvenile vulture goes screaming past his head and flies headlong into a mint-condition 1972 Chevy Nova. An ominous, deep hum that seems to emanate from every direction at once begins to fill the air. Whatever's making that noise, it certainly isn't vultures. As calm as a librarian conducting story time, the old gent raises one palm to hush the knot of people. Can you imagine that instead of a plague of frogs descending on a hapless populace, every living bird would be turned into a crazed kamikaze vulture? Can you imagine that instead of a plague of boils sprouting up on people and livestock, huge separating sores that spew flesh-eating worms would appear on those unfortunate to be so afflicted? Several folks begin to scratch themselves unconsciously. Would you believe that instead of locusts or gnats or flies, that great swarms of stinging hornets the size of sparrows would follow, raining confusion and painful death from the skies? That pretty much covers the hum that is growing more insistent as the sky blackens. And would you believe that instead of a curse of darkness and the death of a firstborn boy child, that every person touched by the vultures will instead become a ravening shapeshifter, or what you more commonly call a werewolf?
Well, I thought we agreed to leave the werewolves and the plagues of Egypt stuff out, but apparently...
You said leave it out. It's a collaboration, so we can vote.
But I don't have that in my copy. But, fine, whatever. Okay, before the old guy can spout any more of this ridiculous about werewolves and hornets and flesh-eating worms, which are stupid, there's a flash and a hiccup in the space-time continuum, and everything goes back to the way it was supposed to be. So where have you seen this before? Asked the woman. I think about lying to her. I think about letting her believe everything's going to be fine. But it's not like anything I say is going to matter. Do you ever read the Bible, I ask? The Bible, she says, this is the original version, several others approached, including the couple and some guy in an Ed Hardy t-shirt. What do vultures have to do with the Bible? I believe what our friend is talking about, says the old gent, as calm as that of a hurricane, is Revelations, the end of time. Isn't that about right? Before I can answer, several vultures dive down toward us, causing the woman to snatch up her pooch protectingly. Moments later, more vultures appear, circling and swooping, buzzing us like crop dusters. Several of the women scream, seeking shelter, while the Ed Hardy guy demands an explanation. What the hell's going on? He shouts above the wail of the siren. As if in answer, the siren cuts out again.